Hello and welcome to this special episode. It was originally recorded for my YouTube channel in July 2025. Since I now have this podcast, it seemed appropriate to also publish it here. So enjoy my interview with Nessa. For the first time on this channel, I'm interviewing someone. And not just anyone, but someone who plays a big role in both my professional life and my daughter's acting journey. Today, I'm joined by the brilliant Nessa, who runs Oscar's talent agency. She supports actors through castings, self-tapes, career highs and hiccups and all the bits in between. I've had lots of questions on social media, so today we're going to dive into what it's really like to be an agent. From how submissions work, to what makes a good show reel, to how young actors and their parents can give themselves the best possible chance of success. So, whether you're a young actor, a parent of one, or someone who's hoping to get an agent, there's plenty for you here. So let's get into it and welcome Nessa.
Hello. It's really lovely to be here, and it's lovely to be working alongside you, Lisa.
It's lovely to have you. So let's get started by finding out a bit about you and your journey into the world of talent representation. Could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us why and how you became an agent?
Yes, yeah, of course. So basically, I'm one half of the Set Up Oscars team, as it were. The other, as you know, is Baz, and we came together from different directions almost. We've known each other since we were literally children, since we were at school. Baz has been in the industry since forever. He went to university to do film and TV. Ironically, I did law originally, but that's been really helpful for all the legal stuff. And he used to teach children, drama stuff, that kind of thing. And I then did a little bit of acting myself, had children, started to find things for my children. And then the children's friends, obviously, were just like, oh, we'd like to do that. So before I knew it, I had about 18 children that I was just kind of helping to find jobs for fun in my spare time. And one of the mums said, why don't you think about doing this properly? And I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And Baz and I were at the same party one day and we were chatting, and I said to him, I'm thinking about doing this. He said, do you know, that's so funny because I'm thinking about it as well, because a lot of the children I teach would like to get into it properly. Why don't we do it? And so we did.
I love that. I love that you did that. So what is the thing that you love the most about your job, and also what's the biggest challenge?
The thing I love the most is definitely the opportunities. I get really excited about it when stuff, when auditions come through or when exciting jobs pop up that I know people are going to be absolutely thrilled about. I get really excited about it. But I think for me it is very much the opportunities that people wouldn't normally get, if that makes sense. Yeah. So one of my favourite little stories is a little boy who, just before Christmas last year, got into the final few to play Kate Winslet's son in an upcoming movie, and got to go up to London and do 20 minutes of improv with Kate Winslet. Yay! And that's the sort of experience you just don't get normally.
No. Oh, that sounds absolutely brilliant. What a lucky chap. Absolutely.
I know. I did offer to chaperone, and Mum was like, no, thanks. I got it.
Fair enough.
Which, yeah, I can understand that. And the challenges. Oh my goodness. So I think last minute licensing is literally the bane of an agent's life. Because obviously it's so stressful, and if we can't get the licenses in place, the children can't work, and that's just disappointing for everybody. So I think that is one of the sort of biggest challenges, but possibly the other is not being able to control your workload in the same way as people can with other jobs, because we never know what's coming in. It's what makes it exciting, but also sometimes it'll be that on one day everything will come in. We'll need to sort out 3 licenses, and we'll have loads of auditions coming through, and then another contract will arrive, and we're there sort of going, oh gosh, wasn't expecting all of this today. Okay, all hands on deck.
I think the actors can relate to that as well. They'll have times where they've not got much and then suddenly everything comes at once or comes on your busiest week. So yeah, at least we can empathise with each other on that one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that bus thing, isn't it? All the buses come at once and it happens on all sides, I think.
All right, so that was great. Let's get into the nitty gritty of what people want to know. Things about getting signed and working with an agent. So what makes a submission from a potential client really stand out to you?
It can be lots of different things, if I'm being honest. Certainly for us, we, as you know, try to keep the sort of internal competition quite low. So the headshot's always the first thing that we see, obviously. So for us, something will stand out is if we're just like, oh my goodness, this person doesn't look like anybody we've got on our books at the moment. This is exciting. Let's hope that, you know, their audition piece is amazing. So that's the sort of initial part of it. But I think it can be loads of things. For me, sometimes it's a feeling. So, sometimes it is, especially if I go off and do audition days. I am one of the agents on the panel for the audition ready days quite often. And sometimes you can tell, that, especially children, that they're a little bit nervous and you're just like, oh, I'm not quite sure because they're quite nervous. But then you get that feeling and you're like, let's do it. We can work together. I can mentor them through. I can get that confidence up. I think they could be really great. So that's always really, I always get really exciting when we get people applying because it's just opportunities for everybody, isn't it? At that moment. Anything that gets an emotional response from me is positive, whatever that emotional response happens to be, because obviously I'm just like, wow, if I felt like this about it, then the casting director should as well, hopefully.
Yes, I love that answer. That links really nicely into the next question with you mentioning headshots, because that's how important are show reels, headshots and CVs, and what do you look for in those?
Really, really, really important. Certainly the headshots. And a bit further down the show reels. I think when people come into us, the first thing we look at is the headshot, then the show reel, then the CV, because we do believe in mentoring people, and we're very aware that people can have a genuine talent without necessarily having the experience. So that's why the CV for us is last. It's nice to see a good CV, but it's for us, it's not the be all and end all. If we can see genuine talent there, we're going to be interested anyway. But the headshots, yes, they're really important because obviously they're the first thing that the casting director sees as well when we're putting people forward for jobs. And 90% of the time, 95% of the time, they see literally a photo this big, like tiny thumbnail size, and lots and lots of them all at once as well. So that photograph has to jump out as being someone they want to look at further. And that's why for us choosing, we always try and get a casting range in our photos, because all of us have different facets to our personalities. We just do. People are three-dimensional, and actually trying to catch those different parts of people's personality is so important, because then when you send the photos through, if they're wanting someone that has a shy side, we try to send a photo that makes them a little bit shy. If they're looking for a character that has lots of energy and bounce, we try to go for a really bright, open, photo. And people won't look at the full picture if they're not initially sort of taken by the headshot. So that's why they're really important. And the same with show reels. A good show reel, you're really looking definitely for quality over quantity. Much better to have 30 seconds of really strong material than 5 minutes of mediocre material. Always lead with your best bit. Always lead with your best bit. Because if people, again, like with the headshots, if people aren't captured in the first 30 seconds, there's a very good chance that they won't continue to watch. We always do, but then we have the time to sit back and go, okay, I'm going to get around to those applications when I've got a spare 5 minutes, so I can go through them thoroughly. Casting directors do not have that leisure time, unfortunately, so it has to be hit. So we have to make sure that the show reels are great. And obviously a full and comprehensive CV is wonderful as well. And I think probably that for other agents is equally important. It's just not quite so for us because we try to mentor people.
Thank you. Yes, and I think later on we talk about the difference between children and adults, because you represent a lot of young people, which is another reason why I wanted you on the channel. So what that leads and partly answers my next question is that, because you were talking about the CV, do actors need a certain number of credits or a certain amount of experience before they can approach an agent?
Children, no. Because obviously they're little, bless them. They're not expected to have huge amounts behind them. So with very, very young children, it's largely based around sort of look, personality, that kind of thing. As the child gets older, there's more expectation there for some training behind them and some sort of appreciation of the role and what's going on, that kind of thing. So not really particularly for children. Adults, yes. Yeah, it's a lot more competitive in terms of what you're expected to have behind you. And it is more difficult to get adults seen if they don't have a certain amount. Of course, it's that catch-22 thing then, isn't it? Where you're just like, well, we're not being seen to get the experience, but we can't get the experience without being seen. And we do very much try to encourage our actors to get out, do those indie projects, do those student films, get the show reel that way so people can see what they're capable of doing. We're fully aware and are quite happy to admit it's often not very well paid or not paid at all, but and people have jobs, obviously they do, and it's difficult to fit them in. But it is important to try and get it behind you if you can.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of that rings true for me as well, so I can be a testament to that. So is it harder then to represent young people compared to adults? Or the other way around, of course?
I think there's obviously a lot more work involved with children and well, under 18s actually. I know that children come out of licensing at 16, but we still very much look after our 16 to 18-year-olds because fundamentally they are still young, aren't they? And they're still not quite aware of the ways of the world. And so we always try to sort of push for duty of care, chaperone up to 18, all that kind of thing. So there is a lot more work involved in that you have to be so much more aware of their safety aspect and all the paperwork, a lot more paperwork. So, for example, the licensing has to be from the local council. If they're going abroad, it has to be from the magistrate's court. And it's exactly the right thing to do because the children need to be protected. So I'm very happy to do it all, but there is more involved. Sorry, what was the...
So this is about whether it's harder to represent young people or adults. And I think, yeah, it's sounding like it is harder in terms of the legalities for children.
Yes, it is harder in terms of the legalities, but the other side of that coin is it is easier then to get children those sort of bigger roles without experience because obviously they're not expected to have it. So that part of it for adults is a little bit tougher if they haven't already got something behind them.
Definitely. So is there a common misconception that parents or actors might have about agents?
That we can decide who gets the jobs. I think that's probably the most common one that comes up. Or that we decide who gets the auditions. Obviously we don't at all. If we did, it would be amazing because everyone on our books would be working constantly. No, that I think is the biggest misconception. But of course, actually, even the casting teams don't make the final decision either. They're doing much as we're doing. We're sort of putting people forward and saying, well, actually, we think this person would be perfect for this reason. This person's slightly different, but actually could also fit the brief for this reason, which is one of the reasons why we're so careful with internal competition as well. Because if I'm writing exactly why I think these people are perfect, I probably can't come up with 30 different reasons why 30 different people are perfect for the job, whereas I can quite easily 4 or 5. There is sort of that is quite, I know that's the most common one amongst other agents as well, I think.
That's really good to know. It's good to know.
Yeah, I think it's sort of, one of those things that people often think.
It might stop parents bothering agents, perhaps, about things that they don't need to bother them about, maybe.
Possibly. I mean, I'm very lucky. My parents are very lovely. So,
of course they are.
They are. They genuinely are, actually. We're really, really fortunate, I think. But I do know that sometimes parents are like, well, why hasn't my child got the job? And the poor agent's like, I'm as flummoxed as you are. I have no idea why that's happened, because they absolutely smashed it from beginning to end. Who knows? So that is a difficulty. And it's heartbreaking for us as well, because we're just like, we thought we had that then. Honestly, we thought we got it. Why didn't they get it?
It's difficult. Oh, it's so hard. So what do you do then in those quiet times when they haven't got the jobs or haven't got so many self-tapes? How do you support your clients between the castings or in the quiet times?
We very much try to, obviously the quiet times, sometimes might be quiet for one actor, but might be particularly busy for another. But certainly if there are quiet times that we're quiet as well, we never sort of sit back and go, oh, let's have a rest. We do always sort of try to go through people's spotlight profiles, look to see if there's anything we can improve, try and find maybe bits and bobs outside of the sort of traditional auditions and things for people to do. One of our actors quite recently, for example, went and did a casting director workshop, and was offered a part in a short film off the back of it, which is great. So we do try to support in that kind of a way and sort of give advice on which casting directors we know might take you on if you've done their workshop, that kind of thing. We always sort of encourage people to keep up their training. So if our actors are a bit quiet but just trying to stay at the top of their game and doing monologues, doing duologues, sometimes if another family member or friend is also an actor, they'll send them in, ask for feedback, that kind of thing, and we're always happy to have a look and see if there's anything that we can sort of advise to help along the way. And it's really important to keep going, though. It's really, really important to keep the skill up and not let it drop and spend 5 weeks at the beach or something. Well, you can if you want to, obviously, but
it depends if you can afford to as well, I suppose. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Getting good experience at the beach.
Observing.
Yes.
Observing
I do love
behaviours.
that. Do you know what? That's always one of my top tips I give any of my students is observe others wherever you are, whenever. It is just the whole family. We love it. It is the most fascinating thing to do. And the basis really of all acting, I think.
Yeah, well, completely, because at the end of the day, if you're an actor of a certain age that you're getting put forward for a lot of sort of parent roles, for example, but you're not a parent, the best way to learn how people parent is to watch other people and go, oh, that's interesting. I think that would be the type of thing I would do, so I'll just put that into my next audition.
I love that. Well, this moves on to our next section, which I know you are excellent at because you've been doing this for a lot of different groups. And this is sort of the advice and the takeaways. So we're looking at, for actors at different stages and for the families that support them, what advice would you give to a young actor who is just starting out?
Now I wrote this down because I wanted to get this exactly right, because obviously child advice is always, you want to make it spot on, don't you? Completely. So, there we go. My main advice is be prepared for rejection, but never take it personally. And I think that's so important for young people, because as we all know, there is a lot of rejection in this industry. You have to be really resilient. And I always say to all of my children, as you know, if it's getting too much, have a break. Your place will still be here when you come back. Look after yourself, look after your mental health. That's the most important thing. And we're very aware that children are, and that sort of really the growing up stages are the toughest, aren't they? I think for all of us, you're still developing yourself and your self-esteem and who you're going to become and all that kind of stuff. And as an agency, we very much want to support our children to come out the other side of every experience they go through, whether that's school, acting, whatever it happens to be, the happiest and best versions of themselves that they can be. So I think that's probably the most important thing. But also, be patient, keep up with what you enjoy, enjoy things outside of acting, and focus on them, and enjoy it. Enjoy the process. I think that's my kid advice.
I think that's a beautiful answer. It gave me goosebumps at the start of your answer there. Yeah. And it's something that we set out as a family to think about. And we've got active friends as well. And they basically said the same thing. You know, that is the most important thing, is that protection and that enjoyment and the being ready for and not taking it personally, all of those rejections. I think that's amazing advice. Thank you.
Yes.
So how would you, turn that advice then to the parents who are supporting their child in this industry? How would you advise them?
Similar sort of thing in many ways, is obviously to make sure that the child has other things that are important to them outside of the acting world, so that they've got positives for the times that it does get tough, I think. And also I do have little notes about this as well.
She's so well prepared. I love this.
I'm trying.
Thank you.
No, that's fine. I had a little think about the types of things that might come up, so I was just like, right, I think I might be asked this and this. I'll check. So I have actually put, don't allow it to become their whole world, and also don't be afraid as a parent to ask questions, because you're their barrier between them and the world. And if your gut instinct says this isn't right for my child, that's okay, and your agent should support you in that as well, because they should absolutely come first. And I think being able to have that relationship is really important, where you can ask questions, where you can say, I'm not quite sure about this, what do you think? So that either you're reassured, or the agent goes, oh, actually, do you know what, fine, yeah, I agree with you on this one. So I think just be a parent and do what parents do, really, I suppose.
Well, that leads really nicely to the next, or the final question in this section, which is the more awkward one. How do you know when it's the right time to change agents, or if you know if someone is a good fit, agent and client?
Agents. Oh, I don't know. I suppose that's more for the client, really, isn't it, to sort of decide what's important to them. I think probably the most important thing is to give it some time, always, and to allow yourselves to sort of slot into the relationship that you're going to have, because it takes a while to get to know each other, and that sort of agent-actor relationship, it has to be built on trust, it has to be built on transparency, and you have to be comfortable talking to one another honestly as well, without anybody sort of getting upset or offended, because it's a partnership. It has to work. So I think, and that's that comes with time. It builds up, doesn't it? You don't have that relationship on the first day you meet somebody. So I think my advice would always be, give it some time to see how you feel. And if it's not right, it's not right. You can't force something to be right. But I think I was asking. We had a situation recently, actually, where someone phoned up, and they're just like, "Oh, we're thinking about leaving because we've been with you for 3 months and we haven't had any submissions." And I'm like, "What? You definitely have had submissions. That's not possible. It's been 3 months." And actually, what it turned out was that it just wasn't feeding through to the tagmen. And this actor had like over 60 in the 3 months, over 60 submissions, but it just wasn't showing up. So of course, from their perspective, they're like, well, they're not doing anything, which I can completely understand. And like I said to them, I'm so grateful that you spoke to me first.
That's what I was just about to say to you. Thank goodness then you had that relationship, because this is a similar question I've had from others before. I'm not getting submissions. I don't want to trouble my agent. And I did say to them, so I'm glad I did, definitely get in touch, because something might be going wrong there. Something technical might be amiss. So that's brilliant that they got in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd always encourage people to get in touch. And we try really hard. I know we don't always manage it, but we do try really, really hard to come back within that sort of 48 hours. If you haven't heard after like a week, email again, because it might have just been that it's got buried under everything. Yeah. As you can imagine, we get hundreds, if not thousands, of emails in every single day. And despite our best efforts, I get to the end of the week and I try and go through the entire week's emails to make sure I haven't missed anything. But despite our best efforts, sometimes things get missed. Not terribly often, but they do. So always ask, always drop that second email, always give us a call. We're absolutely here to work through and find out what's happening.
And I think, and I hope most agents would feel the same. They want to know if their clients aren't happy for whatever reason. And then, like you said, then the partnership can work and flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, obviously, I know lots of other agents as well. And we're all pretty approachable, I think. We're all, people are people, aren't they? We're all people at the end of the day. And we all want our reputations to stay good. We all want our actors to be happy. We all, I think, I'm pretty confident in saying that everyone I've ever spoken to, we all want those relationships to continue. Because the longer you're together, the better it becomes, because it becomes easier and you know more about each other, and those submissions are that bit easier because it's all in my head because I know you so well, rather than having to look on my tag bin and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So I've got a section now with a couple of really specific, almost word for word questions from a particular parent. And I thought these were interesting and wondered if you could answer them. So first of all, if an agent claims to be Spotlight registered, but I can't see them on Spotlight, is this a red flag for me as a parent of a young performer?
I would say any misrepresentation. Fibs! I'm talking about fibs. It's probably a red flag, if I'm being honest. Because it should be 100% open and honest relationship. It might be, I don't know, if there's a possibility that maybe they're on Spotlight under a different name, but I don't see why that would happen, if that makes sense. My theory was they were new and they hadn't done it yet. I was really unsure. I found this an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, certainly it is I would say probably the only good reason to not be on Spotlight is that you're very, very new, because there are various hoops that you have to jump through in order to get onto Spotlight. So you have to have been running for a minimum of a year, you have to have a minimum number of clients, you have to have several references from casting directors that you've worked with and that your clients have had jobs through, and that are willing to give you a reference. You have to have all your paperwork in place, and Spotlight goes through it also, all your child safety paperwork, all your bullying harassment policies, your agreements to make sure that the terms are fair and reasonable. So there's a lot involved in getting onto Spotlight. So if someone's not, I'd either be thinking, oh, they're not quite there yet, or they can't. And if it's they can't, at that point, that's a concern for me anyway. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for answering that honestly. That, I'm sure that's really helpful I believe this parent has now since found an agent, and this was a question before then, but I kept it in because I thought this could be really relevant to some others who I know there are lots of young people still seeking representation. So thank you for that one. And another one, there are lots of scammy people out there as well, so we have to be careful. Yes, we see a lot and try to alert each other of what scams are, because as you said, there's a lot of actors looking for those indie projects or those student projects, and unfortunately some people do take advantage of that. But luckily it does begin to become more obvious, and I don't want any parents fearful of that. Again, if you've got an agent, you can check it through with them. But otherwise, I would say, I hope you'd agree, you just sort of use your intuition, check it all out thoroughly, make sure the parents are just checking, and obviously always going with or having their children professionally chaperoned if they're not going with them for any reason. Yeah, absolutely. Gone on a bit of a tangent there, sorry. No, that's absolutely fine. I'm quite happy to tangent with you, as it were. But no, I think that's exactly it, and it is really, really important. And I think there are people you can ask as well. You can get in touch. We certainly have an open desk policy in terms of if any of our little people, parents are finding things online, we all say run it through us first. We'll check it. Even if you're not getting paid, even if we're not getting paid, we just want them to be safe. It doesn't matter. I appreciate that. So always check, because you hear some awful horror stories, and it's just a minefield. You don't want any of that. So we'll move on to a question. I think this may have been the same parent actually. I've heard of Mandy platform. Is this where you get jobs if you don't have an agent? Yes, I believe that. Mandy's not something I use personally, but I believe that anyone can sign up to Mandy. I think I have to be careful now, obviously, with what I say. I don't want to offend Mandy or whoever runs Mandy. Sure. But it's my understanding that, and I'm very happy to be put right if I'm getting it wrong. It's my understanding that they don't check in the same way Spotlight do. So Spotlight have a process. So for castings to come up on Spotlight, it gets checked over, if that makes sense, before it's allowed to pop up. I'm not sure that Mandy has the same checking process. So if you are using Mandy, I think that the key is to very much check everything yourselves in the same way as you would if something popped up on Facebook, for example. Sure. And it quite often, I believe, is a sort of lower paid jobs or smaller productions, that kind of stuff. But again, potentially all really valuable, useful showreel, experience, credits, little credits. So potentially very good, but just to have some wariness and do the checking properly.
My daughter and I have used other platforms as well. So Backstage, which I believe is now the same company as Mandy, or run by the same company as Mandy, and also Casting Callback. And there's been bits and bobs on those. Again, if anyone's listening to this and knows of other platforms that they find reputable, it'd be great to share that and let others know if they haven't got their agent and they haven't got Spotlight yet. Because there's the bit of the catch-22, isn't it? You, as a young performer, you can't, or is it, and adults can't be on Spotlight without an agent, and kind of vice versa almost.
So children have to have an agent, under 18s have to have an agent in order to be on Spotlight. Adults can be on Spotlight self-represented, but you have to have those credits to get on in the first place. So obviously you have to get the work to get the credits in order to get onto Spotlight, which, as we all know, is a competitive industry. It's a challenge, and a lot of people will do. Several of my actors have done sort of indie projects or whatever in the past, and then not got their footage afterwards, which is immensely frustrating because you've put all that time.
It is hard, yeah.
And then you don't get the footage, and it's just like, oh my goodness, that's so annoying. Actually, a couple of times I've chased personally. I'm like, right, okay, we're gonna get it. I want this footage for you.
I think for children also it's very acceptable. I know we did with Lacey for yourself, is to record your own. We've all pretty much got iPhones, and you can record some fairly decent work at home if you can get your lighting right and your sound as best you can. It's better to, I would say, I think you'd agree, it's better to have something showreel wise than nothing whilst you
gosh, yeah, 100%, absolutely. It's and exactly as you say, a decent camera phone, good lighting, and you've got it. And kids especially, they're not going to have those things. They're just not. So having a really lovely monologue up, or two different monologues that, if they're really interested in comedy and drama, having a couple up there, and the same for adults. It's better to have something that's good quality and shows your acting abilities than to have nothing at all. So I would always say, as long as it's good quality and sort of well shot and you can hear, and all that kind of stuff.
Fabulous, thank you. Well, I've got a quick fire round just for a bit of fun. Go with your instinct. Okay. You can just give me a one word or a sentence or a bit more if you like. No, it's fun. It's only a 3-question. Theatre or screen?
Oh my goodness. So I suppose it depends on what the actor's passion is. For me personally, I prefer screen because I find it less pressurised.
Great. Love that
I always
answer.
worry about forgetting my lines.
Brilliant. Okay, self-tapes or in-person auditions?
Oh my goodness. Is this supposed to be a quick fire question? I could wax lyrical for hours.
Oh, it's all right. You can give us as much info as you like.
I think there are pros and cons, if I'm being honest, especially for adult actors because they're so used to being in the room, and I know a lot of adults have struggled to adjust more. But I think the pros of self-taping is that, especially if you're not up near London, especially if you're out in the sticks, you're more likely to be seen. That's the beginning and end of that, really. It allows lots and lots more people to audition than used to be able to audition. Distance is less of an issue than it used to be. You can do it from the comfort of your own
cheaper,
home.
right? Yeah.
I was about to say, it doesn't become ridiculously expensive. Which certainly I'm very grateful for, because there would have been one point for my children, we would have been in London for 3 days on a trot for different auditions for them. At that point, either you're looking at hotels or, it becomes expensive, doesn't it? So, whereas if I can just kind of grab hold of them at the end of school and sort of pop them against the wall and get it done, it's amazing. So I think they're the pros, but then the cons are that actually, from the casting director's perspective, I suspect you could have done that take a gazillion times to get what you sent through. So then when they get you in the room, they're like, oh, that doesn't quite tie up. And the majority of actors have fabulous personalities. You kind of have to, it's part of the job. And you don't get to showcase your amazing personality if you're not in the room. So, yeah. I could go on.
I like that, actually. I spoke to an actor a while back and she was saying, I've got 100% success rate for in-person auditions, but not for self-tapes. And I found that really interesting. And she said, yeah, I just feel that they get my personality when I'm there and not necessarily so much. But then obviously if you're auditioning for screen, then I suppose it needs to come through on the screen. But I found that really interesting, that ratio for her.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a really interesting way to.
I've got a final quick fire one here. Classical text or contemporary scenes?
Oh my goodness. Oh, well. I do quite like contemporary, but before my law degree, I did an English literature degree. I have lots of degrees. And I did a whole module on Shakespeare because it's a bit of a passion. But I think probably for today's audiences, especially with this flicking and everything, anything they have to focus on too hard probably isn't favoured, is it? So I probably have to go with contemporary.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there.
My old tutors aren't watching.
But we need both, don't we? We need both. So it's all good.
I think so. And also, again, different actors enjoy different things, doing different things, don't they? I have people on my books who get so excited about something really sort of classical, and then others that are just like, oh my gosh, that's my worst nightmare.
It's good to have the balance, definitely. So before we wrap up, is there anything that you wish you'd been asked, or any sort of final advice that you want to add to our interview today?
Oh my goodness, that is a difficult one. No, I don't think so. I think probably just the final advice is just always just feel that you can ask questions, and that, even if you think they're silly questions, they're valid. Everyone starts somewhere. And I hear this a lot from my parents when they're just like, we're not in the industry, but our child's so enthusiastic. And I'm just like, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. This is our job, is to guide people that don't know what they're doing so that they end up being able to do it. Yes. It's like learning anything, isn't it? So I think the most important thing for any sort of any agent really is so to ensure that their actors feel comfortable speaking to them about things and having open and honest conversations. And I would always encourage everybody to have a look at that situation for themselves and think, am I happy? Am I comfortable? Is this a conversation I feel comfortable having? And then just plan out how to have it so that you feel comfortable with it. Excellent advice. I hope that these hints and tips help those who both are and are not yet represented. So that was a fabulous chat. Huge thanks to Nessa from Oscars Talent Agency for sharing... for me too. Sharing insight and her time today. I know loads of people will have found that really, really helpful.